Welcome to Glory Hunter, the series where I try to win the league and cup of the top 5 leagues in Europe, along with the Champions League and Europa League on Football Manager 2024. What's the catch, you ask? Well, I have to do it all in just 20 seasons. That's 5 nations, 12 trophies, 20 seasons. This is Glory Hunter. When I decided to embark on this journey, I asked you guys on Twitter and the community page here on YouTube, and you sent me to France and Marseille for my first season. Now, we're going to dive straight into the deep end, head first against the might of PSG. Now, you are responsible for sending me to France, so I need you to let me know in the comments your favourite part of this season and your predictions for season number 2. Now, without any further ado, I decided to start a Your World save and see how things would develop in France. Marseille finished last season in 3rd, but the media prediction had us as best of the rest in 2nd place behind PSG. Now, an initial review of the squad showed a promising group of players, and I initially went with this 4-2-3-1 as our formation. I quickly identified the left-back position as an area of weakness, with just Jordan Amavi in the team who could play there, and I wanted to stick to a back 4, so a signing or 2 would be needed. We also needed more strength in depth in goal as well, as Pau Lopez was our only senior goalkeeper in the squad. Our first signing of the summer filled neither of those requirements, as Samuel Umtiti was brought in on a free transfer after leaving Barcelona. The Frenchman provided depth at centre-back and strengthened the squad all around. Another French free transfer was made as Moussa Dembele joined and would slot in behind Vitinha as our second choice striker. We fixed our depth issues at goalkeeper by bringing in veteran David De Gea on another free transfer. He brings much needed experience to the squad after his decade plus at Manchester United, but does give us the selection headache as Lopez is ousted from his number 1 role. The free transfers kept rolling in as we managed to steal Wilfried Zaha. The 30-year-old Ivorian needed a new home after leaving Crystal Palace and slotted into the left wing position. And I finally spent some of that healthy transfer budget using £12.5 million to sign Guilherme Arana from Atletico Mineiro, with the Brazilian left-back becoming our first choice in that position and going some way to solve the potential issues in our defensive line. With those transfers and the immense wealth of talent we had in the centre of our midfield, I opted for this adapted 4-3-3 formation with a solid triangle at the back and this sort of arrowhead going forward, and I think it looks cool at the very least. Now, speaking of that talent in midfield, we managed to hold onto all of them despite a few bids, with Valentin Rongier, Jordan Verretout, Jeffrey Kondogbia and Matteo Guendouzi, all vying for those 3 midfield positions. Now, at the other end of the spectrum, we've got our hottest young prospect at 16-year-old striker Enzo Sternal, who will be sniffing around looking to pick up the odd appearance here and there, and maybe even start in the earlier rounds of the Coupe de France. Now, before we could get to any domestic football, we had to navigate the qualifying rounds of the Champions League, and as we were drawn against Austrian side Sturm Graz in our season opener. Before we got into the action, we made another free transfer signing as I brought in Ross Barkley to provide more midfield cover after he'd performed reasonably well for Nice last season in France. The home game against Sturm Graz was a nice, straightforward introduction to life in France, with Rongier opening the scoring inside 20 minutes with a lovely long-range effort. Under then went on a great run and slotted home a cool finish to double our lead not 5 minutes later, and a corner late in the first half led to the 3rd goal of the game as an Mbemba header found the back of the net, and then a relaxed second half brought us a 4th goal with Zaha sending a dangerous cross to the back post, allowing Under to grab a brace. Now, the League One season started at home to Stade Reims, and it just took 35 minutes before we managed to get a breakthrough. Harit broke down the left flank, and despite having a number of options in the box, he beat his man, cut inside and smashed home from a tight angle. Harit was involved yet again as we doubled the lead in the second half, sending the ball over the top to Dembele to smash home, and that is when the floodgates opened. Lirola and Under linked up on the right, with the Turkish star grabbing a goal after a lovely left-footed strike. Barkley came off the bench and found the left foot of Under once again with a great ball over the top of the defence. And the 5-star performance was rounded out after Barkley got his 2nd assist of the game as he found Vitinha on the edge of the 6-yard box, and there was no doubt about the finish. The return leg in Austria quickly followed, and so did more goals, with Arana finding Zaha at the back post with a great delivery, the Ivorian heading home the opener. Under and Vitinha linked up before half-time to make it 2-0 on the night, but the second half saw the foot firmly taken off the gas pedal as we allowed the Austrian side to get back into the game. A ball over the top gave them their first goal of the tie, before a corner was converted to equalise on the night, but it was 6-2 on aggregate and the victory was ours. The reward for this victory was a clash with Serbian side TSC in the final qualifying round, and that should be an easy path into the group stages for us. Which it proved to be, the home leg being an absolute whitewash at 8-0, and then an entertaining dead rubber in Serbia which saw the hosts win 4-3, but the aggregate victory was ours and Marseille were into the group stage. Michael Laudrup hosted the draw, which handed us a tough group consisting of Real Madrid, RB Salzburg and Feyenoord. Honestly though, none of the other groups looked that much easier, so maybe we could fall into the Europa League and have a decent pop at that trophy in the opening season. League form started well as we added victories against Metz and Brest in August and continued to knock the goals in with 13-4 and just 1 against. This left us top of the table on goal difference, and PSG had already dropped 3 points in the opening month. The door wasn't quite open for an upset just yet, but the deadbolt wasn't across, so we stood a little bit of a chance. On deadline day, Paul Lirola decided he wanted to leave and secured himself a move to Napoli. He was decent cover at right back, so I made a couple of moves to provide more depth as the deadline approached. We signed Miles Robinson from Atlanta United, with the American international providing solid cover at both centre back and right back, and then finally young Spaniard Mark Bubel was signed from Levante to provide more depth at right back behind Jonathan Klaus and the newly signed Robinson. As expected, the Champions League was tough. We started out away at the Bernabeu against Real Madrid and were convincingly beaten. Modric got the opening goal inside 3 minutes and it went downhill from there as the Croatian leapt above everyone else to head home his second just 10 minutes later. We managed to hold out until the final 10 minutes, much thanks to the efforts of David De Gea, but he was beaten for the third time by Valverde from range, and it was a 3-0 victory for the home side. 3 days later, we were away at PSG, and our week couldn't have been much worse. Neymar picked our pockets early on, perfectly reading a poor back pass by Klaus and getting to the ball ahead of De Gea. Mbappe then beat the offside trap and slotted home the second of the game before Asensio ran around the defence to make it 3 before half-time. The humbling was completed in the second half as we failed to clear our lines from a corner and Mbappe punished us from the edge of the area. We followed this up with a draw away at Monaco, which left them top and us clinging to second on goal difference ahead of PSG. We'd also lost to Nantes at the beginning of September and had a truly horrible month despite beating Toulouse 5-0. A comfortable victory over Nice helped it to lift spirits nearly as high as Harit had got as he headed home the only goal of the game from the back post. This didn't help as the sack apparently loomed over my head as we faced Lyon at the end of October. Not sure if this was ill-informed reporting or a trigger-happy board, but a 2-1 victory rounded out a nearly perfect month, which included wins over Salzburg and Feyenoord and left us top of Ligue 1, albeit with the teams behind having a game in hand. After beating Feyenoord for a second time, we hosted Real Madrid and put in an excellent performance to overturn them after an amazing effort from Zaha gave us the 1-0 victory. Now, a draw against Salzburg was enough to see us advance from the group, and we would face Manchester United in the round of 16. We ultimately finished level on points with Real Madrid, but behind on head-to-head goal difference. League form continued though as we won 5 from 7 games across November and December in order to end the year in second place, just a point behind PSG and with a decent gap forming between ourselves and the chasing pack. We advanced past Bordeaux on penalties in the Coupe de France and got a key victory against Monaco in the league at the end of January, thanks to this strike from Under and a result which sent us to the top of Ligue 1. We were back in Coupe de France action next as we took on Ligue 2 side Auxerre when Dozy went on an amazing run through the midfield and set up Harit on a plate to get the opener, and the second tier side were though not easily dispatched as some less than stellar goalkeeping from Lopez allowed a rebound to be pounced on for the equaliser. The second half saw our strength come to the fore and it took a cracking long-range effort from Rongier to get the winner and push us through to the next round. We were paired with Toulouse in the quarterfinals, but with Lille and PSG still in the draw, things wouldn't be straightforward from here. Champions League knockouts were up next though, and the challenging tie with Manchester United started as we would expect it to, a header from Casemiro giving the English side the lead. Shaw then found Fernandes with a square ball from the left wing to double their advantage, but we clung on to some hope as a late free kick from Klaus found Gigo at the back post to keep us in the tie. News broke in mid-February that Marseille were attracting takeover interest and that the current owners were more than willing to entertain the proposition. So maybe we might be coming into some good money next season. On the same day, PSG fumbled away at Nantes, who took another scalp, and this opened things up for us to go level with them at the top of the table. Now, the game against Brest was our chance to do so, but it took a 90th minute penalty being converted by Vertout to give us, what looked like at least, the 3 points. But in the 95th minute, the relegation battle has equalised and we'd blown our opportunity to draw level with PSG. Now, PSG held the advantage by 2 points, with Monaco 7 further behind us, meaning it was nearly a two-horse race if we could keep the pressure on when it mattered most. Now, Toulouse in the Coupe de France quarters was a much easier tie to navigate. We went ahead early as Zaha found Barkley in the area to slot home, and at the beginning of the second half we doubled the lead as Ballardi converted a Barkley corner. It was Zaha who completed the route and gave us the 3-0 lead, with Toulouse sneaking in a consolation goal late in the game, but we were through to the semi-finals. We were drawn against Metz in the semi-final, which meant a potential final clash against PSG if we can get there. Now, speaking of PSG, they were in relative turmoil as they lost another game, with Monaco trying to make things interesting with a 2-1 victory. We cruised to victory ourselves, 1-0 over Clermont, with Vitinha heading the only goal of the game. This gave us the lead with 10 games to go, but only by a single point. That might not be enough at the end of the season, as we've still got to play PSG in this run-in. The small matter of the Champions League had to be handled next, and despite an early goal from a corner with Arana scoring after his own corner was cleared, the strength of Manchester United came through, with Casemiro getting his second of the tie, giving them the 3-2 aggregate victory and sending us crashing out of Europe. Now, defeat in the Champions League was disappointing, but honestly we really didn't stand a chance to win this competition right now, so it allowed us to focus on the 2 trophies that we actually had a chance to win. Now, 4 points in the next 2 league games left us perfectly set up for the clash at home to PSG at the end of March. They had a 1-point lead, but it could all change if we could somehow manage to get a victory at the Velodrome. Our first look of our youth intake came in and it was supposedly average, but there was a right winger named Bouzard being the best prospect coming through, and I'll have to keep an eye on how he develops as the seasons go on. Back down to business, and it was time to host PSG, and we had a dream start. After 4 minutes, Guendouzi found Zaha just inside the area, and he decided to run around everyone before smashing the ball past Donnarumma from the other side of the area. We held the lead until the second half when a Neymar corner found Icardi in a gaggle of players, and his header beat De Gea and levelled things up. A couple of minutes later, we were awarded a penalty which Vitinha confidently slotted home, and we had done it. We'd beaten PSG and gone top of the table. The results gave us the lead by 2 points with 7 games left to play, but there was plenty of time for things to go wrong for either side. Things didn't go wrong for us though in the Coupe de France semi-finals, as an Umtiti header was enough to see Metz off. This set up another clash with PSG in the final. We could theoretically do the double and complete France in season number 1, but we could also miss out on everything and have to do it all again next season. PSG decided that they didn't really want to win the league title this year, as they dropped points to Lorient whilst we cruised past Nice thanks to a Veritat penalty early in the first half. We did have our own stumble though, as against Toulouse, Zaha was dispossessed at the halfway line and they caught us on the break and shocked us with a 1-0 victory. I guess we weren't too good to lose. Do you get the pun? Excellent. This put PSG back to just a point behind with 4 to go, but the big news coming out of the Toulouse game was that David De Gea, superstar goalkeeper, had broken his arm and was out for the rest of the season. It was utterly terrible timing, and it's going to make things a lot more interesting for the final few games. Now, I've added new GAN faces to my youth intake, and we've got 3 of the players joining Bouzard in the top talent category, but don't they all look nice? The 3 more victories for us and 3 more for PSG left things at status quo going into the final game of the season. Just 1 point between the two sides, but we had the luck of facing already relegated Havre. Winning the title was very much in our own hands, especially with PSG facing Metz, who were embroiled in a relegation battle on the final day as well. Now, there was very little to worry about as we struck early and often. It was a special day for everyone involved at Marseille this season. Zaha opened the scoring with a power header, and a second header of the game saw Vitinha double the advantage at the back post. Kondogbia and Klaus opened up the opposition before allowing Under to grab the third of the game, and then Kondogbia was more than just involved in the build-up for our next goal, as he took on everyone and scored an absolute beauty. Goal 5 saw Zaha convert his second header of the game, and our 6th and final goal came from the penalty spot as Vitinha converted, and it really didn't matter what PSG were up to. I hadn't even looked, nor did it matter that we lost the clean sheet late on as well. 6-1 and champions. PSG might have comfortably beaten Metz 3-0, but Marseille had won the league by just a single point. Not only have we won the League Earned title, I've taken trophy number 1 in Glory Hunter, but don't switch off now, there's still the small matter of the Coupe de France final to deal with. Now, I might be getting ahead of myself, but the Newcastle job is open, so I'm going to cheekily apply for it in the hope that we'll beat PSG for the second time in as many months. It comes down to this, the Coupe de France final. Are we done with France already, or are we here for another season. A nervy first half was goalless, but we earned a free kick on the edge of the area just at the beginning of the second half, which Under put deep in the back of the net, and Marseille were ahead. We soaked up the pressure, and then late on Zaha gathered the ball in tons of space and was stupidly allowed to run straight at the PSG defence. They sat back and Zaha took full advantage, smashing home to round out a fantastic season. We'd only gone and done the bloody double. Ligue 1 title, Coupe de France winners. France, you are completed. Zaha, the star of the season, but he was ranked close by De Gea as the signing of the year. An all-around great performance from the squad as a whole. Now, to go along with the double, I was personally responsible for Luis Enrique getting sacked by PSG after forcing them into a trophyless season, but that was it. I'd done France. It was time to resign from Marseille. I'd stepped down, won 2 trophies in the first season of Glory Hunter. It's an incredible start to the series, but where do I go next?